It's Sunday afternoon. You've been going hard literally all week. Client calls, delivering proposals, and you finally sit down. No laptop, no to-do list, nothing on the agenda. And instead of feeling relief, you feel off, like you're forgetting something, like you should be doing something else. And no matter how hard you try to relax, some part of your brain is keeping score of that to-do list. I do this every single day. I'm like, oh, it's 8 o'clock at night. Let me sit down. And then I think about everything else. And that feeling has a name. It's rest guilt. And this sneaks up on you. And today we're digging into where that guilt comes from, what it actually is costing you, and most importantly, what permission-based rest looks like in practice. Because resting is not reward for finishing, it's a requirement for continuing what you're doing.
Real quick before we dive in, we want to tell you about something we are excited about, and it's called the Spotlight Swap. We've already been doing a little bit of outreach for it, but we wanted to bring it to our listeners as well. So here's how it works. We collaborate with fellow business owners through a simple but powerful exchange. We feature you in the Entrepreneur Encounter newsletter, and you feature us in yours. That's it. No big budget, no complicated partnership. Just two businesses, two entrepreneurs, really, I guess in this case, three, helping each other get in front of new audiences. If that sounds like something that you want to be a part of, the form will be linked in the show notes below, and we would love to swap spotlights with you. So please take a moment to go check it out. All right, so let's get into it and start with the root cause, or where rest guilt comes from, because you can't change a pattern that you don't understand or don't even recognize. Rest guilt does not come out of nowhere. Most of us were taught, whether directly or I feel like majority indirectly, that busyness equals worth. That if you are not producing, you are falling behind. There's a saying, and I feel like I should have looked this up before now, but like idle hands do Satan's work or something. Like if you're not busy, you're just basically evil in some way. And when you become an entrepreneur, that message gets even louder, not quieter, because majority of us are in that transition of working for someone else. So we're having a full-time job, and now we're growing a business. We don't have a team like when we were at that 9 to 5. So we're doing all this stuff anyway. The message of constantly doing something is so loud. There's no one clocking you in and out. The accountability is all internal, and the to-do list, as we all know, never ends. So here's what makes it extra tricky for entrepreneurs specifically. When your business is your idea, your brand, your vision, your everything, it becomes deeply tied to your identity. So when you stop working, it can feel like you are disappearing a little, like fading off into that algorithmic of life. Like, who are you if you are not building something right now? How do you step away and let that momentum continue to build? And then you layer on the comparison spiral of seeing, others that are farther into the industry that you're in, and, highlighting everything on Instagram. They launch something new. They're posting about their amazing productive morning, and suddenly your rest feels irresponsible. Like, I haven't earned that yet, or I wish I could be like that, but I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way through Z to do.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like it's never ending. It's never ending. It took me a long time to not feel guilty for doing nothing.
I'm going to be honest, I still feel guilty sometimes for doing nothing.
Exactly. Some weekends, I even apologize to my husband sometimes. I'm like, I'm sorry I'm not cleaning. Who cares? Like, just rest. Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel guilty for resting. And then, it's the I'll rest when cycle. I'll rest when I hit this revenue milestone. I'll rest when I finish onboarding a new client. I'll rest when things slow down. I'll rest when the house is clean. I mean, if you have a family and you have kids, that's never ending. So just take a day. You can do it tomorrow. And that finish line, that ending just keeps moving. it's always just out of reach. So the rest never actually comes. It seems to be a conditioned response. And guess what? You can actually fix this.
I will say, not to get all male versus female, but I do feel like it is something that is conditioned more for women than it is for anything else than for men. Because men are conditioned, they go to work, they work hard, they do this, and they come home, they sit on the couch and they can rest. Or they sit on the porch and they can rest. They crack open a beer and they can rest. Whereas women, we go to work and we come home through the door, there is no sitting down. It's like our second 9 to 5 or 5 to 9 or whatever you want to call it starts, because we come home or we clock out and now we clock back in. Probably have already picked up kids, or we're waiting for them to get off the school bus. We're helping them with their homework. We're cleaning up the house, or what is it? Closing down the house, or whatever it is, like the end shift, or maybe opening up the house. I've seen them both on TikTok, of like the routine of getting your day prepped, and then the routine of getting your evening set, and like closing the kitchen down and doing all that cleaning. But you have to cook dinner, and then you have to do the dishes. You have to give kids baths. You have to read them books if they're younger children. You have to, we do all of these things, and it is primarily women that you see having to do it. And so it is a condition that we, over time, like it is what it is. It just seems like normal life. So think about the last time you took a real break. Because I also apologize. I'm like, man, I didn't do anything today, or I didn't do enough. When was the last time you took a real break? I honestly don't think I could tell you, because as anyone from my co-working space that is listening to this will be the first to nod their head and say, they have to make me close my laptop often, or it is very intentional and difficult for me to like flip my phone over and push it away, because I'm always making sure, I'm always like habit stacking, but probably in the worst way. So if you're like me and you're struggling, really think about last time you took a real break. Did you actually feel rested at the end, or did you feel like you owed your business something when you came back? Like you didn't start from where you left off. You felt like you had to start where you left off, but at like flash fast speed. That's the question worth sitting with, because if your rest is filled with guilt, then it's not actually rest. Your body never gets to like reap the benefits of slowing down. And for those that are neurodivergent, it's even more difficult for you to do that. So now we kind of know where it comes from, the conditioning and everything else. Let's kind of talk about what it is actually doing to you, because this is where it starts to get real, because you can feel it in your everyday body. Guilty rest is not refreshing in any way, shape, or form. That is the thing that most people don't realize. When your body is physically still, but your brain is in full problem solving mode, running through your to-do list, feeling anxious about what you're not doing, your nervous system doesn't actually feel good. You're not recovering. You're just sitting down while still burning fuel. So you're like a candle in a candle holder.
Yeah.
You're still just kind of burning. And that starts a cycle that compounds really fast, faster than we can probably keep up with. You rest poorly, so you come back depleted. Then you're probably snippy because you feel behind. Then you overcompensate with longer hours or a heavier lunch, or saying yes to something a client asked you when that's outside of your scope. You burn through everything faster, and eventually your body just stops. Like it will force you to stop. Not because you chose to rest, but because you had no choice left but to do so. And that can come in the form of like you getting a head cold because your immune system is shot. You having, you starting to gain weight because you can't get out of that stress. So now you're stress eating and all these other things. Like it could just be a plethora of things. Burnout doesn't happen because you work too hard. It happens because you never gave yourself permission to stop, and your body found a way to stop for you. I have been in that cycle. I feel like I'm currently in that cycle because we are transitioning from school to summer, and no matter how hard or how much I like pre-plan of like, okay, here's how it's going to go, something always comes up. Something always comes up.
It's so funny because I enjoy working. I know that's weird to say because a lot of times people don't enjoy working. I think it's maybe what I'm doing, who I'm like interacting with. And I had this conversation, over the years, like with my dad about working and about resting, because he's a very big advocate for taking naps and resting and all of that. I don't like taking naps. Maybe one day I'll train my body to take naps, but I don't feel good doing that. And I remember I was working on a Saturday. I was working on something. He's like, "Oh, what are you up to today?" I'm like, "I'm working." He's like, "You're just like me." That's his routine as well. So he goes to work on Saturdays. And it's not that I have to work, it's because it gives me something to do. And over time, I realized that I need to rest in a different way. I know that, like, not work, actually do something else. So, yes, like going outside and spending time with family and all of that. So, again, it's taken me a while, but over the last few months on Sundays, I do nothing. I'm just like, this is my time to, you know, do things that is not work.
Yeah.
And, so, and sometimes, yes, sometimes I still feel guilty. I'm like, oh, what else can I do today to take a task off my to-do list? But again, like if you keep pushing yourself to work and to keep doing things, your body is going to see that and it's going to give you headaches. It's going to make you want to fall asleep at your desk. It's like, it's going to make you snippy. Like you need to figure out your balance, what works for you, and not feel guilty for resting.
I think there was a stretch when I first started. I'm not nearly as bad as I used to be. I'm sure some people will disagree, but I really am not. But there was a stretch where I kept telling myself, like, I would take a full day off after I wrapped up, like, a certain project. In fact, there's never a day I took a day off. But the project ends, and I immediately picked up the next thing, whether that was a client project, something I wanted to work on in my own business that I was inspired by, just because it felt like there was a momentum and I didn't want to lose it. And then, a few months later, I'm sitting at my desk and completely unable to think clearly. And it's frustrating. Not tired exactly, but I'm just sitting there, not really knowing what to do first or next, just kind of empty, like decision fatigue, I think is what it's called. So I had used up literally every creative resource I had, and there was nothing really left to pull from. That creative depletion is real if you are not careful. And I think it's one of the costs that people underestimate, especially for us in the creative space. We need that rest. We need that not just for energy, but for decision making quality and patience with clients and ourselves, clarity on our own direction. Because before long, you could be doing so many things and it's pulled you in a completely different direction of where your 10-year vision is. It was like, yes, for me is like slow walks. So like I started going walking. I would drop the kids off. I would go for a walk before I came home because I knew when I got home, I would sit down and we're in it. We're in work mode. And so I started allowing myself, giving permission to rest in the form of going for walks and like touching grass and breathing fresh air and like enjoying nature in the form of walking around the park. It was a paved path. But that small thing, that seemingly small thing, had a big impact on me. It had an impact on this podcast because honestly, that's where you started getting like 10 Slack voice messages about, oh my gosh, what about this idea? Because I was able to rest and like breathe. And we felt it in the podcast. I felt it in my business. My clients could feel it. I do feel like the quality of my work got better. I was able to really dive into like Pinterest strategy better. It's just rest is not selfish. When we do those things, it just makes us better. Running on empty is a very selfish thing that you do, and it doesn't end well for anyone.
It does not. All right, so we have named the guilt. We have seen what it costs. So let's talk about what we can actually do about it. And I want to be clear, we're not talking about bubble baths and taking Fridays off. I mean, a bubble bath sounds nice, but that's too much effort. Like, I don't want to do that. So the first one is what I want to call the rest reframe. So stop calling it doing nothing, because you want to rest. Rest is active recovery. Name it that way, or name it whatever feels right to you, and then put it on your calendar. Instead of saying like free time or lunchtime or whatever, you can say recovery block or recharge or whatever language that you want to use. You're not skipping the work, you're doing the work of sustaining yourself. The second one is a permission slip practice. Before you step away, write down one sentence. It can be something like, I'm resting because my business needs me at full capacity, not half empty. It sounds simple, but what it does is going to interrupt the automatic guilt loop before it starts. Because you know that you want to rest, but if you are giving yourself a permission, like, here's a slip. I give myself permission to do this. Just like how we've talked about affirmations, I am good at this. I am great when I do this. So that's almost like an affirmation, but I'm resting because I need to be able to work at my full capacity. So you were reminding yourself of what you already know.
Is learning the difference between boundary hours and buffer hours. Boundary hours are those non-negotiable. These are the times that are protected no matter what. So a Sunday morning where you go for a slow walk around the park, or if you live in a neighborhood, you can do that. Or every evening after 7, you close all screens and you read a book, or you take a bubble bath, or you do something. Every evening at 7, after 7 p.m., you do this. Whatever it is for you, these do not move. Buffer hours, however, are flexible. These are the pockets of time that can shift if something genuinely urgent comes up. So the problem is most of us entrepreneurs have no boundary hours at all. We're just always on. Everything is a buffer. Even if you're scheduling emails to go out tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. during your normal office hours, you're still working in the evening, scheduling them to go out. And when everything is flexible, then nothing in your life is protected, in your schedule and your ability to rest. Fourth is what I like to call the re-entry ritual, or maybe even like a reset. This one is subtle but can be very effective. Have a specific moment or action that signals the end of your rest and your return to work. So maybe it's making a cup of coffee. Maybe it's sitting down at your desk and opening your planner. Whatever it is, that ritual creates a clear, like, psychological close to the rest period, and it makes the rest feel complete and not like it has been interrupted or stolen. And I know that may sound silly. I think it's also habit switching. Like, when you're able to successfully habit switch through these, positive, healthy rituals, you will see a difference in the long run. And then the last one, for those of you thinking there is no way I can take a full day off right now, I hear you. That's why we created the 20-minute reset. And we didn't make it, but we just suggested the 20 full minutes of intentional non-work. No phone, no passive scrolling, no to-do list running in the background, sitting outside, going for a walk, or just being still. Done with full intention. 20 minutes. Sorry, I'm yawning. 20 minutes is more restorative than 3 hours of guilty half rest. So before the podcast, I took 20 minutes to talk to my sister on the phone. And here we are, nice and bubbly and energetic, because I feel like I got some rest in. So here's your permission slip to start where you are. You do not have to overhaul your entire schedule. Start with 20 minutes. Pick one of these and try it this week and just see what shifts.
So rest is something you protect, because a depleted version of you is not good for your business, not good for your clients or the people in your life. The guilt is going to come no matter what. It's going to be there, but we have to figure out a way to combat that guilt, figure out a way, again, that works for us to be able to make sure that we can actually take that 20-minute rest. it's not going to disappear overnight, but you can just start making a different choice and, just making those habits. And every time you rest without punishing yourself for it, you are building a more sustainable business slowly, but it's going to get to where you want it to be. That is what the work is. It's not, it's about staying consistent, because you're going to stay consistent in your business, right? You want to stay consistent with a certain task in your business. Why not stay consistent with with yourself, so that you're able to rest and be guilty free? If today's episode resonated with you, we will share it with one person, especially those entrepreneurs that are, feeling guilty. So if you're talking and having a conversation about this, just share this episode with them. Maybe this will resonate with them as well. And don't forget to sign up for the Entrepreneur Spotlight, and all the information is going to be in our show notes. Until next time.
You can now follow us on LinkedIn at Entrepreneur Encounter.
Thanks for spending time with us today. If something in this episode gave you a fresh perspective, share it with a friend or send us a DM. We love hearing how these conversations land with you.
And if you're curious about how soft skills can support your next season of growth, we each have more resources to share.
You can find Dana on Instagram at danas.desk.nc for Pinterest strategy and intentional marketing.
And Sarah at URemberts for team development, business leadership, and podcast support.
Until next time, keep leading with purpose
and growing with intention.